Within the Settings and Panels module, there are two tabs. The first tab being Settings, and the second tab being POS Panels. For this video, we are going to take a look at the POS Panels tab. Within the POS Panels tab, you will see a list of all of your current POS panels, and on the top right, the ability to add new ones. However, if you would like, you can either remove a POS panel from the list, or you can modify. For this example, we're going to create a new one. When you click Add New, it will take you to the Create POS Panel page. On this page, you got 5 buttons at the top, the blue one being Load from Template. If you already have a POS panel pre-configured and you would like to utilize it as a template for creating other ones, you can save that one as a template and then use it when you are creating additional ones using this button. And then we have our 3 save options and then cancel. Beneath that, we have the name of the panel. Typically, customers will name this the store name. On the right side of that, we have the Remove Item button. When we click into one of the POS buttons, we see that this Remove Item button highlights and gives us the option to remove it. To the right of that, we have this cogwheel, where we are able to control how many columns of buttons the POS will have, and different theme colors. For this one, we are going to use the light theme. On the left side, we have our actual buttons. We have our 1x1 button, and to use these buttons, we just click, hold, and then drag it onto the screen. You can see that there are little grid boxes that highlight whenever we move the button over it. And we can just let go of the click to drop that button onto the POS panel itself. When you do that, you will have a pop-up for naming the button, along with the ability to choose the color of the button, and then what type of button it is, whether it is a basic square button, or whether or not you can add an icon to it. For this example, we are going to keep it a basic button, and then after we have configured these 3 settings, we can click Save Changes. After you save your button, an additional pop-up window will appear for you to actually configure the button itself, meaning this is where you choose what the button does within the register. At the top, we have the Choose Button Type, which when you click on this, a drop-down menu will appear with all of the different types of buttons the register can have. For this example, we are going to make this button a tender button. Whenever you select the button type on the right side of the page, you will see a brief description of what that button type does. Additionally, for this tender button, we can choose which reconciliation bucket this tender is going to be going to, whether or not it is going to round up the total whenever it is pressed, whether or not it is going to be a quick cash button with a defined amount, and then we can select which tender it is actually going to be utilizing. Going back over to the left side, we have the panel list. This allows us to define which panel this button will take us to after its function has been utilized within the register. If our business has a delivery service charge, we can use this button to keep track of that delivery service charge. Beneath that, we have additional options for utilizing the button, like whether or not a manager override is required when this button is pressed, whether or not an employee override is required whenever this button is pressed. Please note that only one of these two features may be turned on for the button at a time. and then whether or not a loyalty customer needs to be present whenever this button is used. After we have configured our settings here, we can save changes, and we can see that this button is now a part of the panel. Additionally, if we wanted to create additional panels, we can see those here at the top with our tabs. Clicking the small green button with the white plus on it will give us an additional panel for us to drag and drop our additional buttons. Additionally, you can see that when we have a button highlighted, we have this bar that shows up at the bottom. This allows us to rename the button if we need to, change the color as well, make the button a little bit rounder or sharper. We can also change it to an icon button using this panel here. And you'll notice that when we select icon button, we have an additional option to choose the icon. When you choose the icon, a pop-up will appear with a list of all of the different icons that we can select from to tie to this button. Once you highlight it and click Save Changes, you can see that icon has appeared on the button itself. So now, if my business has items that cannot be scanned, however they are still sellable, we have a button type that will allow us to do so. So in this, we are going to set up a Open Department Sale button. To start off, we're going to click on one of the button types on the left side, drag it onto the grid. Once it's dropped onto the grid, we will get a pop-up to name the button. Select the button color. Choose what button type it is. We're going to select Basic for this button, and then we're going to save. After we have saved it, it will take us to the button settings pop-up page. And then from here, we're going to click Choose Button Type, and then scroll down until we see Open Department. When we select that, we can see the description on the right side here. We have a button to choose whether or not transactions involving this button are considered as a loss or not. And then beneath that, we have the department list. This allows us to select which department this transaction will be logged to for reporting purposes. So we will select our department. Do we want a manager override to be required whenever we are using this button? Or do we want an employee override? For this scenario, we are going to say we require a manager override to use this button. And we do not need a loyalty customer on the transaction. After we have filled this out, we can save our changes, and we can see that this button is now a part of the POS panel. You will find that our default panel set is going to cover most of your general needs. However, if your business requires a more specific setup, please take a look at our extensive button type list. Whenever you select a button type, on the right side, you will see a brief description of what that button type does within the register. After you have configured the panel set to suit what your business needs, you can use one of the 3 save options on the top right, and that will save the progress that you have made for that POS panel. From here, you can go into your locations and assign which panel set to which store it needs to go to. And that is how you set up your POS panels for the register within the FasTrax Control Center.